Hey, this is Notser, and we're going to do a Soviet destroyer build. I just wanted to help you guys out. Anyone who cares, I mean, if you don't care, you obviously don't watch the video, but some people are like, hey, what would you recommend for the current Soviet destroyers? What has really worked for you? Some of them drop smoke, they use their heal, so I'm just going to sort of quickly, very quickly, talk about what I look for in my skills for the Soviet destroyers. Now I'm going to start at the top, because this is the coup de grace. This is the best of the best. These ships are so good. The Hubadovsk. Now, the Hubadovsk is a ship that I really, really enjoy. I can't see it being nerfed. I mean, any more than it exists now. They haven't touched it. So I'm going to just go off of the idea that this is really what its identity is always going to be for the foreseeable future. So what do the Soviet destroyers do? Well, they fire the gun. They fire the guns constantly, and they don't really care that they're seen. They don't really care about any of that. So concealment, a normal destroyer thing, is irrelevant. Also, because they fire their guns so much, they really are looking to do AP damage with their guns, HE damage, and fires. Late tier, super late tier, you can definitely use your torpedoes, but mid to... what is it, tier 7 or 8, you really don't have torpedo systems that could be used for anything other than self-defense. Now, the Hubadovsk is not one of those self-defense torpedoes, and I have to do a better job of making use of it. But because it has 10-kilometer range, I can send it more often to deny a flank, and the general idea of my build is focus on the guns, go all in on the guns, gun accuracy, gun rate of fire, make sure the main armament is protected, because who cares about AA or secondaries? And then maneuverability. All in on maneuverability. Don't worry about concealment in either the commander skill or the modules that you can equip it to. Now for me, I like inertia fuse high explosive. That is probably the one outlier with most people that you'll see. Oh, you should have gone concealment, Notser, it's going to be better. It's better, but it's not really giving you anything. Maybe the initial game might allow you to move forward to an objective and take it, but most of the time you're firing your gun, and you're not concealed. Your gun detectability when firing is super bloomed out, so concealment is irrelevant. I like inertial fuse because for every shell that might fail to pin or explode on contact and not do any damage, it sort of helps you out. I can't tell you how many times I felt like, man, if I had inertia fuse high explosive, it might improve. Now, some people are like, oh, penetration, you already have plenty of penetration. That's great. That's great that you think that's the only thing that this provides you. But it's just not. Basically, what it is doing is it's giving you more HE damage for less fire chance. Some destroyers, you obviously can't afford to drop too much fire chance, otherwise it's basically like you're never having a chance to light the target on fire. But if you have a fairly reasonable 7, 8, 9% after inertia fuse is on the ship, you should theoretically do more damage. It's going to be less HE that fail to do any damage. How often are you firing on a section of the ship and it's already sustained full damage to HE or something similar to that? This will help you out a little bit, and it is a very tiny bit. It will absolutely help you destroy enemy destroyers. There's no question that it's improving your damage there, but against like a battleship or a cruiser, it's going to improve your chance to get that one shell that fails to do any damage to potentially actually do damage, and that's why I like inertial fuse. So for the Soviets, priority target is actually very important, I think, now that I've played it for a while. You are always detected. Let's try that again. You are always detected. So knowing how many are actually firing on you is very important. It's sort of like the cruiser mentality. You are going to be detected a lot. You just need to see who is actually going to fire at you when detected. Now, this is a weird build because I was on the Robotnik. Last stand, of course. No question, that's the right skill to take. But expert marksman is not the skill you would take on the Hubadovsk. Instead, you want to take a drill and rush. The guns already traverse extremely quickly. That's not any question there. So we take basic firing training, of course. Basic firing training is the first skill. It improves your AP and your HE damage, plus your chance to light the target on fire with a higher rate of fire. Of course, we take advanced firing training. But I get inertia fuse, demolition expert, and then adrenaline rush. And that's pretty much it. That is a super solid Soviet destroyer build, if you have fast turret traverse. So the Hobodovsk, if you look at the turrets, they traverse 10 seconds to do 180 very quickly. Doesn't need expert marksman. Same with the Tashkent. Doesn't need expert marksman. It's 20 seconds, you know, maybe it's on the border of being too slow. I think adrenaline rush is probably worth it still. Udaloy has fast turret traverse, you know, 10 seconds, very quick. Don't have to worry about that. Kiev has fast, don't have to worry about it. The Ognivoy, fast, don't have to worry about it. Still, the Ognivoy is a weird duckling, though, I would say. So far, I would just take the Hobodovsk build that I suggested, this ultimate build, and apply it to Tashkent, Udaloy, Kiev. But not the Ognivoy. This is a very weird ship. It sort of operates very much like a US destroyer, where its torpedoes are actually potentially useful. It has great concealment. Its gun systems are not as impressive as other Soviet destroyers, but it still does a pretty good job. So I would actually play this a lot like an American destroyer. I go, you know, faster torpedo rearm, but concealment. Concealment is a very important priority, I think. It really does operate like the US destroyers because of that. You pick up the concealment skill module, all the stuff that you would expect. Propulsion, you sit in smoke, you get close to send torpedoes, you can go to long range and shoot your guns. It's a little dangerous to shoot your guns because it is such a massive penalty, but it's intriguing the way it works. I actually have enjoyed the way it's playing. Obviously, you need to get better, you need to improve, really refine the strategy, but that's what I've really run into. Oh yeah, one other thing that you might notice. I've got this engine boost modification. It's very hard to get. If you have it, I would put it on a Soviet destroyer. If you don't have it, I would actually swap in, and some of these don't have it, I would actually swap in my propulsion modification. And the reason I suggest that is you're already getting steering protection from the modification. You can get propulsion protection, or improved propulsion protection. So the movement of the Soviet destroyers is not going to be impeded. And that's very important. So Ognivoy, play it more like a US destroyer. That's the build I'm going to, you know, improve your torpedoes, maybe improve your main guns, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, get concealment, advanced firing training, those sort of things. The Minsk. The Minsk is where I think you take the same build as the Hobodovsk, but you sub out adrenaline rush for expert marksman. It really is a part where it's weak, and it needs to be improved. Same with the Leningrad. Leningrad also, slow turret traverse. So, the tier 7, 6, 5, 4, they all need expert marksman. But other than swapping in expert marksman for adrenaline rush, it's pretty much the same build I take on my Hobodovsk. Priority target, last stand, basic firing, advanced firing, inertia fuse, demolition expert. Make sure you can get your chance to light the target on fire greater than 7 or 8. If it drops below 6, I think that inertia fuse is not good enough, because you're giving up a lot of percentage chance to light the target on fire. But I've really enjoyed this build. I think I get, what, 20 to 30,000 more damage with inertia fuse. It's just too consistent how much better the game feels with it equipped to this particular ship, and of course all the others because they use 130mm guns. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that. I've really enjoyed super maneuverable ships. It's very agile in the water. The speed boost modification's very good. It's probably the only modification that I would recommend from this special upgrade stuff. My Udaloy is really sort of, if you don't have any of the special modifications, propulsion coupled with all these steering, it feels pretty good. The steering is repaired in, 3 to 8 seconds, something extremely quick, and propulsion has a higher chance of not being knocked down, which are very important. Even though you have last stand, they're still sluggish. You understand. So I hope this is helpful for anyone who's, the Soviet destroyers just came out. What do you recommend? How do you think they play? I think they play similar to this. I'm honestly going to swap in my steering gear on my Kiev and go that route. I wasn't super impressed with concealment. I think the maneuverability is more important. So yeah, that's my Soviet destroyer. The Minsk is really the first Soviet destroyer, or the last Soviet destroyer, that requires expert marksmen. The tiers 8, 9, and 10 really feel like they don't need it. You can get a drone rush instead of expert marksmen, and you'll operate very effectively. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.